Have you ever noticed why those mysterious sages in ancient times chose to cultivate themselves deep in the mountains? Whether it is the Himalayas in Tibet, Mount Shasta in North America, or Mount Athos in Europe, why is it always about mountains? If it were merely about seclusion, one could simply move to the countryside with fertile fields to grow vegetables. But why must it be the deep mountains? What exactly is hidden within the deep mountains? Those sages always said that they cultivated with true energy. But what exactly is true energy? Could it be that only the deep mountains contain this true energy? Could it be that true energy appears only in certain places? Today, I will boldly reveal to you the secrets hidden within the deep mountains, what true energy really is. Do you remember that I once said before, any object can carry a certain amount of energy? When the turbid energy in the city drifts with the wind and attaches to buildings, the energy gathers at the corners and is released from the corners, forming what is called killing energy or harmful energy. The principle behind this is quite simple. Energy flows along different surfaces, then converges and compresses at their intersections, and finally is released from that boundary line or intersection point. Now, let us shift our perspective to a larger object, the Earth itself. When the surface is compressed by two opposing forces of energy, the ground rises and forms folds. Where do these two energies meet, contend, gather, and release their excess energy? The answer lies at the junction of the folds, the mountain ridges. The more distinct the junction is, the greater the underlying energy it reflects. Ultimately, the Earth's excess energy is released through the ridges of the mountains. If you could see the direction in which energy moves, you would find that the same mountain mass scatters different energy lines in different directions. Eventually, the energy lines released from different mountains intersect, and that intersection becomes the point where energy converges. Now, if you are a researcher of mysticism or metaphysics, you can record a set of observations like this. The more directly a person stands facing the sharp corners of a building, the more their physical health and mental state decay. Conversely, the more a person stands in the splendid areas of mountain ranges, the clearer their mind becomes, the more vigorous their spirit are, and even their lifespan becomes longer. What is the reason behind this? The key lies in the nature and the source of the energy. The energy lines you receive, are they good or are they harmful? The energy accumulated in cities is almost entirely the turbid energy released during human aging, as well as the negative energy emitted by spirits that come to live among humans in order to absorb human life energy. Therefore, the energy lines carried and released by buildings are inevitably harmful to life. In contrast, within nature, the energy carried by mountains comes from the Earth's interior, as well as from celestial bodies, such as the sun, moon, and stars. It is pure and natural. When a person stands within the energy lines emitted by a mountain, this pure energy clears away the turbid aura accumulated in the city, naturally benefiting both body and mind. However, does this mean that any land automatically possesses true and pure energy? The answer is no. The land on Mars does not have it, and neither does the land on Venus. Why is that? Next comes the second key point I want to mention. Only the land of Earth receives life energy. This relates to the creation story of Earth. As I mentioned in a previous video, the birth of life on Earth was not some random event that no one witnessed. A higher dimensional existence projected a vast amount of life energy onto Earth to create tangible life. This energy contains two attributes: nourish the growth and spiritual consciousness. Life energy is attached to the inner layers of the Earth, and through geological activity, it is transmitted and gathered in different places. The uplifted high mountains accumulate a great amount of life energy, and through snowmelt and the rivers, this energy is carried downstream all the way to the sea. Ultimately, this life energy nourished plants, animals, and humans, and endowed them with spiritual consciousness and energetic spirit bodies. What is most noteworthy here is that the global inner magma, carrying deep energy, rushes toward the Qinghai Tibet region, pushing up and forming the Tibetan Plateau. In other words, the strongest and the purest natural energy is concentrated in this area. The purer and the more remote from human habitation the energy is, the more suitable it is for cultivation, training, and the pursuit of immortality. This is why there is the legend that the mountains in Tibet are the land of immortality practice. Why was it only in ancient China and ancient India that the awareness of becoming divine through one's own cultivation emerged? Because the rivers carried the spiritual consciousness of cultivation from the snow mountains down to the lower reaches. This brings me to the third key point. On earth, the first to contemplate was not tangible lives, but the mountains themselves. As mountains gather life energy, it also means that spiritual consciousness is being gathered. Eventually, the mountains at the points of energy convergence give birth to their own soul consciousness. These spirit beings that nourish all things are generally called nature deities. The higher dimensional existence gave birth to the nature deities, and the nature deities, in turn, fulfill their responsibility to the higher dimensional existence by delivering the energy they have gathered to the living beings of the earth, helping them to grow. However, this does not mean that any being can obtain additional life energy without cost. Neither the higher dimensional existence nor the nature deities have any obligation to provide extra assistance to any single individual. For the nature deities, in addition to fulfilling their responsibility of dispersing part of the energy to nourish living beings, they must also safeguard the granary of life energy and must never casually grant it to any individual. It is like the central bank of a nation, which must carefully control the issuance of currency. Otherwise, it would inevitably be looted. Now, just imagine someone running to a mountain and shouting, "Give me more life energy. This is a gift from nature. If I see it, it should be mine. Why are you hiding it from me?" How ridiculous such behavior would be. Or imagine a so-called devout practitioner running to a mountain and kneeling down. "I want to cultivate. I want to attain ascension. Please give me some, I beg you. I will kowtow 1,000 times to you. Will that be enough to prove my sincerity?" Such behavior is equally hilarious. From what I have seen over the years, nature deities are far more diligent than any practitioner. While tirelessly nourishing the operation of life on the planet, they also devote themselves to cultivation, all for the chance to advance into a higher dimension. That is, the opportunity to become a divine being of the heavens. Look, even the nature deities must put in such great effort, cultivating tirelessly for millions of years, as if it were a single day. And now you call yourself a practitioner. What have you actually contributed? Meditation, exercises, chanting, prayers, worshipping gods? None of these contain even a bit true energy. From the perspective of the higher dimensional existence and the nature deities, they hold no value at all. This is the fourth key point I want to emphasize. Cultivation and training mean making use of the natural energy resources. To access the granary of natural energy, one must abide by strict rules and pass rigorous tests. It is the same principle as a national examination. As early as the beginning of life on Earth, the rules for ascension had already been established. Countless energy bodies and spirit beings from the surrounding space of Earth came here, all wanting to take a share from the pool of life energy, all wanting to cultivate. Without strict rules to restrain them, and without a greater power to uphold fairness, Earth would have fallen into chaos long time ago, and human civilization would never have come into being. I mentioned long time ago that the Tibetan plateau was once filled with trolls, and human skin ritual instruments declared their merciless nature. What kind of place is that? It is the very source of the Earth's life energy. Even trolls were willing to serve as enforcers for the higher dimensional existence, and the snow mountain deities, tightly guarding the granary of energy, all for the chance to cultivate. And you, someone without origin, without having undergone any trials, without making any sacrifices, without proving yourself through action, do you think it is possible to stand before nature and trick your way into obtaining the energy for cultivation merely with words? At this point, someone might say, you just mentioned that the sun, moon, and stars also have pure energy. Then why don't I just directly receive it from the sky? The sun and moon shine on me every day. Over time, wouldn't I also be able to complete my cultivation? The answer is no. Everyone must understand this. All sources of life energy, all granaries of life energy, whether the sun, the moon, the stars, or the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, are inevitably under the control of spiritual beings. And those deities who manage the celestial granaries of energy, who would dare grant you extra access. Moreover, the pure energy emitted by the sun and moon is extremely thin when distributed to each living being. They only carry out the ordinary rules of natural growth and do not grant anything extra. Furthermore, celestial bodies can, under special atmospheric conditions, transform into disastrous energy, for example, the blood moon. The same applies to wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They may be brought by deities carrying out storms, or by storm demons. Many people who practice meditation are filled with the idea of rushing straight into the cosmos to receive what they call cosmic energy. Without exception, it is space demons that come to exchange energy with them, and in the end, they become tainted with evil energy and fall into illness. This is the punishment for the folly of these so-called practitioners. All practitioners, including myself in the past, as long as they do not treat cultivation with seriousness, practice improperly, and try to take shortcuts, will inevitably face retribution until they awaken and correct their attitude. Someone once said, "You talk about cultivation every day, so why don't you review some basic methods to prove that you are correct?" Because if it were truly useful methods, it would inevitably mean successfully making use of natural energy. Can I simply tell a stranger where a bank is so that they can go and rob it? Any gain without effort is most often nothing more than a scam set up for you. Throughout history, true cultivation has never involved free giveaways. Aside from being looted, such things could never attract people of genuine virtue. Both the gods of heaven and the deities of earth fully understand this. Only those who enter through the trials of cultivation rules and prove themselves as devoted to training as the nature deities are, can obtain the energy, the resources, and the opportunities for cultivation. And the rules of cultivation are different in every era. The national examination is never something that can be passed once and for all. I am merely a guide. I only lead according to the rules. Even myself do not possess any granary of energy. This is Celestial Feed. See you in the next episode.